My name's Scott. I'm an addict. Thank you, Trevor. I really appreciate that, man. That means a lot. Because for a long time, I didn't really feel like I was good for anything, that I had much value, really anything to offer. And to hear just that, this program has blessed me with the ability to have an impact on someone's life like that is incredible, and I never would have thought that would be possible. I just came here to stop using, and so much more has happened since I got here. My clean date is May 21st, 2012, so I have 3 years and 6 days clean. And I thank God every morning for another day, and I ask Him every morning to help me stay clean every day. And when I go to bed, I thank Him for another day clean. And that's been a part of my recovery from the very beginning. I don't really know why. It's just the direction that I went in when I started going to meetings, a meeting every day, and when I really got serious about this program and got a sponsor and started working the steps and got a service commitment and started really reading the literature and really putting my effort into staying clean. I'm really grateful to be here. I really am. I couldn't even imagine having 3 years clean. That's just insane to me. An active addiction, I could stop using, but I'd always pick back up. I could stop for a day, I could stop for a week, I could kick it for a month. At one point, I think I had a couple months, but just don't get high, just don't get high. When that obsession was taking over, it didn't work for me, This disease is greater than I am, and if I try to fight it head on, I lose every time. And I've proven that to myself. I want to welcome all the newcomers. There's a lot of new people here this evening. And like Trevor shared, when I first was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous, it was a nudge from the judge. And I had to come and get my paper signed. At that point, I had no desire, no interest, no willingness at all to change. I wasn't an addict. I didn't have a problem. In my mind, I didn't at all. I just got unlucky and was in the wrong place at the wrong time, wrong neighborhood, really, just sitting in my car in the middle of a neighborhood, getting high and just expecting, I guess, just to never get caught and to just be basically invincible, So I showed up here, and a friend of mine who was in the program brought me to Westminster, and I don't remember a single thing that was said at that meeting at all. I was just miserable, and I was actually so scared to walk up to the chairperson to get my paper signed. That fear, that shame, that guilt, I felt so uncomfortable that I refused to. I had a paper to be signed, and I didn't go up there, and I didn't get it signed. I didn't get it signed for a couple meetings. And finally, I realized I have to. But I didn't do that. And there were only a couple young people around my age. I'm 25 now, so I got clean when I just turned 22. And my friend Rusty over here came in just a little bit before I did, and another friend of mine right around the same time. And since then, the age group in recovery, the young age group of recovery has really grown significantly. And I really can't believe it. It's incredible. It's amazing how much this program has changed. And this is my home group. I love this group. It's been my home group since the very beginning. I've always said we have the best table in the Heartland area, because there's just like the width of the table is like it's perfect. Because at this table, it feels kind of awkward when someone's like sitting, like right there. It's like, I just love this. I love this meeting. Best table. I hope to never leave. We have a very strong group of young guys here. We do a lot of things. We go to conventions. There's a Florida Region Convention of Narcotics Anonymous coming up in a couple months, first weekend of July, where there's over a couple thousand addicts, spending the whole weekend in a hotel with workshops. There's a marathon meeting that never ends the entire time. It's just one hour after hour of a meeting that you can pop into at any point and participate in the meeting. We've gone down to the Keys and done just a lot of cool things that I never expected to do when I first got here. Like I said, I just wanted to stop using. I wanted to stop hurting. I was in so much pain. I was miserable. I was sad, and I didn't know what else to do. I was a broken individual that was lost. And, thank God for Narcotics Anonymous and the people here before me that were willing to lend a helping hand and to show me that I'm not that fucked up, and I'm not that different, and I'm not alone, and that, we can recover from this disease. The message of Narcotics Anonymous is that an addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. Our message is hope and the promise of freedom. And that's true. For my life so far, that has become true. I've stopped using, for over 3 years now. I no longer have that I have to get high. That feeling inside of me that I just couldn't resist. I couldn't ignore it. It would always get the best of me. And there I was, getting high again, even when I didn't want to. For a couple years, I didn't want to get high anymore. I realized what it was doing to me. I was exhausted. Finding ways and means to get more is exhausting. And I put all my time, all my energy into doing that, and I couldn't really accomplish anything, because that's all that mattered. I couldn't do any of the stuff that I do today. And actually, none of the stuff that I do today really mattered. All that mattered was that I got high. That I could get more. And I'm so thankful that I don't have that desire to use anymore. And then the third part of that is find a new way to live. And that's what I'm doing day after day now. Is finding a new way to live. And we do that through the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, and by coming to meetings and doing the suggestions that you'll hear over and over and over and over and over again. And I wonder why. It's because they work. We wouldn't be saying the same shit over and over and over again if it didn't fucking work. There's people here with years and decades clean. And I guarantee they'll basically just read what the bottom of our meeting list says. It tells you what to do. So as soon as I realized that I didn't have all the answers, and I didn't know everything, and I wasn't capable of doing it all on my own, and just was willing to, ask for help and to take some suggestions, my life started to get better, and the message became true for me. And the other part of that is the message of hope and the promise of freedom. In active addiction, I didn't have any hope. When I got here, I didn't know what hope was. It was just a word to me. I never really looked forward to my future, because the future was just didn't fucking look good, you know? The way I was living my life, I couldn't imagine that good things were going to come in the future, you know? So I just didn't have anything to look forward to. I didn't have hope that things were going to get better, because they only got worse. You know, maybe every once in a while I caught a break, like I got pulled over with drugs in my car and I didn't get arrested. You know, I was like, yeah, I got out of that one. You know, maybe there was a little hope there for the future. But, you know, no real hope that I could succeed, and that life was going to get better, and I was going to, you know, have healthier relationships with my family, that I was going to find a woman who, you know, was the love of my life, and us to, you know, have a family, and for me to finish school and to succeed at my job. Like, I didn't think about any of that, you know. I didn't hope for those things. I hoped that when I called the dope man, that he was going to fucking answer the phone, you know? And when he didn't, I was pissed off, you know? But I was willing, you know, because he had what I wanted, you know, and I was going to make the effort to get it. And I remember just sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting and calling more numbers. Sometimes, you know, just doing whatever it took to get more. I'd do it. And today, sometimes it's difficult for me to fucking pick up a book or make a phone call or go to a meeting and do some of the simple things, you know, that we say to do. And you know, the promise of freedom. You know, in my active addiction, I mean, I never realized that, you know, that I wasn't free. You know, I always had this idea that I was going to do whatever I wanted to do, and that was my freedom. You know, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. And, you know, I'm not going to, you know, get with this person and not commit to these things because I want to be free. And if I did commit to, you know, relationships or school or different situations, I looked at it as they were holding me back from doing what I really wanted to do, which was get high, and everything else that involves. You know, that was my idea of freedom. You know, I got into romantic relationships, and weird thing is that a lot of the girls that I got into romantic relationships with just used one drug, and they really frowned upon anything else. You know, and so I have periods of where I didn't use particular substances. And just real quick, you know, here in Narcotics Anonymous, we aren't interested in what or how much you used, who your connections were, what you've done in the past, how much or how little you have, but only in what you want to do about your problem and how we can help. You know, sharing specific drugs and things like that creates a lot of differences between us. And, you know, the drug, I realized that the drug wasn't the problem, you know. The drug was the solution, what I thought was the solution to my problem, you know. And so when I first got here, I looked at you know, people who used, you know, what I thought the hardcore drugs were, and I separated myself from them. And I don't belong here because I didn't use these particular substances. And, you know, and I'm not, you know, I didn't, you know, I was never homeless, you know. And so being new, I, you know, tried to find all the differences between us to, you know, separate myself and tell myself that I didn't belong here when I truly did. And so I have to remember to look for the similarities and not the differences. You know, back to the freedom, you know, being here in Narcotics Anonymous and working through the 12 steps and living this, trying to live this new way of life to the best of my ability, I do have freedom in some areas of my life today. Recovery is an active change in our ideas and attitudes, and my ideas have changed since I've came to this program. You know, I have just new ideas today that never crossed my mind. Like, in my active addiction, I lied all the time. My life was full of secrets, and I kept things from so many people out of shame and guilt or fear of embarrassment or looking bad or whatever it was. I kept that kind of stuff to myself. So this new idea of honesty, was huge for me, and it's still difficult sometimes to remember and to practice honesty, because my natural instinct is to lie because I want to look good. So I come into a meeting or I'm talking to someone about something that I think makes me look bad. That feeling of just go ahead and lie about this, still enters my mind. But through practice, I've been able to be honest more often, and that's a whole new idea to me. But it's changed my life. It's given me freedom to come into meetings and share what's going on with my life and get intimate with other people. I didn't share what the fuck was going on with me in active addiction with other addicts, with my drug dealers. I didn't share how I was feeling, other than I'm really fucking high, or this is some good shit, I feel great, or like this was terrible, like I feel awful, what the fuck was this? There was no expressing how I felt, and I didn't have any idea that was important. But people here in the meetings were doing that, and they were living happy lives, and they were clean. I never thought that I would be happy clean. I thought that if I stopped using, I was going to be miserable for the rest of my life. I'd never have fun again. And I thought that people who didn't use were lame, losers, and that they had no fun in life. That's what I thought. And I was so wrong, because that is so untrue. So if you're here and you're thinking that is a lie. I have had fun in recovery, and I do enjoy my life today. So I guess a little bit about my story personally. I grew up. Well, not really. I actually didn't really grow up. I got older. My age increased. I was with. I don't really know how to say that. As I got older, I never really felt a part of. I felt different. I preferred to isolate. I felt really uncomfortable around other people. I just really couldn't imagine being friends just with a lot of people. I just had this skewed image of myself that I wasn't any good, that I wasn't attractive enough, that, people didn't like me, that I was always afraid I was going to say some stupid shit, and that, I just was that way growing up, and so I had a really hard time just connecting with other people, and so I felt different and alone, and I remember there's a couple distinct moments growing up where I started changing who I was as a person to fit in. I became a chameleon, and I would hop around from crowd to crowd, with this fear that if the people got to really know who I was, they wouldn't like me. And so, like in middle school, there was a girl on the bus. I shared about this last year, and but it had such a huge impact on my life. It was a girl I was very attracted to, I really liked, and she made fun of me because my jeans were too short. Right? My jeans were too short. My socks were showing, right? And apparently that wasn't cool, and I looked like a goofball. And she called me out on the bus, and I was extremely embarrassed of that. And little things like that have started to shape who I was. And I was so paranoid, and still am paranoid of things like that to this day. I still think about, not that particular moment, but that idea of, this is cool, that's not cool, I need to make things this way and not that way. I have this obsession about my jeans being too short to this day, so I make sure that they're not, And if they start to get close and feel a little uncomfortable, and I get pissed off, and I'm like, damn it, I left them in the dryer too long, I have to go and I have to fix that, because otherwise I'll just be paranoid. But little things like that stuck with me throughout my life, and I became someone who I wasn't. I became someone who just tried to fit in and blend in, and I don't have to do that anymore. Here in Narcotics Anonymous, I don't have to do that. It's my tendency to do that. A lot of those behaviors still stick with me. And, but they have slowly changed by making, just doing a few things differently. I cheated my way through high school. I had more important things to do. I just cheated. I just looked over at everyone else's tests, and I did nothing on my own, and I just did whatever I had to do to get by, Growing up, prior to high school, I did great grades, and then I started getting involved with a group of people, and we participated in a particular activity, and we did it all the time, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And so, school and anything of value to me, and fear of what the teachers or the students would think if I failed, or all that stuff just kind of didn't matter anymore. I didn't care anymore. So I only made it through high school, I think, because of that. But I started college, and my senior year of high school, I had my first drink, and that first drink, or that first night, I don't remember any of it. I just blacked out. And my addiction was a blackout, I blacked out all the time. I just used until I woke up, And I guess that was my idea of, I enjoyed myself and I had a good time, So I moved away for college, and up to Gainesville, and my addiction just took on a whole nother level. When I first started using, I had a lot of fun. It was great. I loved getting high. Don't get me wrong, when I first started using, I had a blast, and I had a lot of friends, and I loved partying, and, I had no idea I was an addict. I was just someone who was getting high and drinking and enjoying themselves and just living life, and when I was able to get out of, my family's home, I just had that freedom to do whatever I wanted to do in college, and, I only made it up there for about a year before I was back, because I didn't do anything, I dropped out after the second semester, and because all that mattered was getting high. I kind of have a funny story. I had a nickname in my active addiction, and my nickname was the Tinkle King. And this was because at a certain point, there was about a 50% chance that I was going to wake up soaked in my own piss, because I had drank so much, and I'd get to the state of blackout so early that, I didn't go to the bathroom, That's all I can say. And it was like, I'd wake up, I did. I just did it on myself. So, things like that would happen. Very embarrassing, like, this guy has a problem type scenarios, but like, I didn't have a problem because I was too busy looking at my other friend who like threw up all over himself and was laying naked somewhere. I'm like, I'm not as bad as that guy. You know, all I did was piss on myself. But, you know, I didn't look at any of that ridiculous stuff like that were, you know, red flags that I may have a problem here. I didn't. I completely ignored it. I moved back here, and my addiction just kept getting worse. At a certain point, I realized, after failure after failure, I realized that what I was doing wasn't okay anymore. Like, there's a problem here. Eventually, I thought to myself that, you know, there may be a problem. I don't think that most people like think to themselves, just like, I may have a problem doing this, you know, maybe I should stop and not stop, you know, or like just have a few and then just stop. You know, if you're anything like me, you know, as I realized, I thought about the fact that I had a problem all the time at a certain point, but I just continued to do it anyway. You know, my goal was to use successfully, and I couldn't. I tried so hard to use successfully and manage my life and just and do, you know, I don't know, just move forward. And because a lot of my friends in the beginning weren't addicts, you know, they knew how to stop because they had a test the next day, and I didn't get that. That didn't make sense to me. They could leave a beer at the bar and walk away and go home, and that did not make any sense. You know, I still wanted to go and to go and to go until I couldn't go anymore. You know, and so like, you know, like I said, you know, I started to realize that like there might be something wrong here. Like, there's something wrong with me. You know, like this isn't okay. But that didn't stop me. I came back home, continued to use. I remember I was lived back at my dad's house. Which is just down the road. And I remember I dropped out of school again, but I didn't tell my parents that I was committed to. I told them, you know, I just was stupid, and I signed up for a class that started at like 8, and my dad knew that, so like he made sure that I was up and out the door on time before he left for work. That was just terrible. That was a terrible idea. And but what I would do is I had to, you know, I had to get up and I had to go, so I'd leave and I'd just go and sit there at the Walmart in the parking lot and just get high for like 3 or 4 hours, you know. That's what I did. And my whole family lives here, so I was just ducking and dodging all the time, trying to just evade them, you know, and not get caught. And just, man, it was exhausting. And I just felt like such a just scumbag. Like just such a, I don't know, I just felt terrible about myself, and what I was doing was just fucked up. So an opportunity was presented to me, and I moved up to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I took it as an opportunity to change my life. Because it was never me, it was the places. You know, it was the people, the places, and the things. It was the people here in Lakeland, the people I always grew up with. I just have to get away from them, you know, because I know them forever, and they're going to get me, you know, and be bad influences for me. It's this place, Lakeland, and the trucks, and, you know, and all these different trucks, you know. Got to get away from the trucks. So, you know, and then I went to so I went to Gainesville, and that didn't work out either, like I said, and because that wasn't the problem. I thought that, oh, well, there's just too much partying up here. It's too much. So I'll just move up to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I didn't know anyone. I took a job up there, didn't know a single person. I was just on my own. And I had this idea that I was going to change my life, and everything was going to be different, and it wasn't. The first day I got there, I met up with some people. I found what I needed. You know, I was looking for what I needed. I found what I needed, and I got fucked up. And it was a blackout, and I pissed myself on their couch. You know? And I never talked to them again after that. But that was my life, you know? And I didn't, you know, that was my life. And I just kept trying to use successfully, man. I was trying. I tried so hard to use and just manage my life, and it just didn't work. So I ended up looking in the mirror at work, because I had no hot water where I had moved to. I moved up there into a nice apartment, left there, you know, moved in with my drug dealer moved in with me. We moved to a different place, you know, in the middle of the ghetto, with a guy coming over to my house asking me for pots and pans, infested with bed bugs. I couldn't sleep there. I was fucking miserable. So I'm sitting there at work, spending the night at work, looking at myself in the mirror, completely just devastated and ashamed of who and what I had become. And I went back to my desk at work and got high. You know? Being in that situation, and I still got high. So I came back here, and my parents and God, you know, I believe, you know, got me out of there. I got arrested with some people, some bad people that were out to get me, because apparently you know, we got arrested together. It was my shit, and I didn't claim it. And so they got arrested too, and lo and behold, all the charges were dropped. I don't know where they went. You know, I never saw those people again, thank God. And after that happened, I was out of Charlotte, North Carolina within a week. And so I moved back down here, and I started coming to meetings. But I wanted to stop, but I was only willing to do so much. You know, I didn't take all the suggestions. I'd just come to a meeting, every once in a while, yada, yada, yada. But on, you know, May 21st of 2012, I sat right there. This is funny, because last year, I shared this very same thing, and I said this time around, I came into the meeting and was sitting right where Alan is. And again, I came into this meeting and I was sitting right where Alan is. And, you know, I admitted that I needed help, and I was miserable, and I was going to do, you know, whatever it took. And there's my sponsor today, you know, came up to me and asked if I was willing to do whatever it took to get and stay clean. And I was scared, and I didn't know what that looked like, but I said yes. And so, you know, and I committed to a meeting every day for 90 days. And that's not an easy thing to achieve. It really isn't. But I did it, you know. I was committed to it, and I went to a meeting every single day for 90 days. And I think that's huge and extremely important in the beginning, because it really helps you see the same people, get involved, you know, and it just helps you connect, you know, just very, very well. I made this my home group. I started making coffee. You know, I'd come here 30 minutes, or try to beat Bruce here, but that's tough. And, you know, I'd come here and I'd start making the coffee, and I got a service position inside, you know, the home group. It would be the greeter, just saying, hey, welcome to the meeting. I started reading the literature a lot. I'd meet my sponsor up at Starbucks, you know, and go over step work. Go to these different conventions, and I dove into the program, you know, dive into the program like your life depends on it, because it does, you know. And I'm so grateful for the people, you know, here before me, my sponsor, you know. I had just never, you know, here's a guy that I don't know at all, but is willing to take time out of his own life and, you know, meet with me at Starbucks and talk about, like, what's going on in my life, and share, you know, his experience, strength, and hope on what's going on in his life. A complete stranger, you know. Where do you meet people like that? I've never met anyone, you know, who'd be willing to do something like that, and continues to, you know. And that's the beauty of this program, is that, you know, we come in, there's people helping us helping us to get clean, and then now, you know, I have, you know, being where I am, you know, the obligation to extend love the way that love was extended to me when I got here. And I'm extremely grateful for the program of Narcotics Anonymous, and thank you all for coming and showing your support. It really means a lot. And like I said in the beginning, I didn't think that anything I had to say was going to make a difference, going to be important, to really help someone or just be a positive. I never thought that I'd be a positive influence on someone's life. I was always the guy who was the peer pressure, or that negative one that would influence you to get high, because I didn't want to feel alone. But today I'm not that. I'm a guy who is recovering, and honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. With these, we're well on our way. So thanks for letting me share.